right, so if at any time you have questions, go ahead and let me know. All right, so the anatomical donation program here at the University of California was originally established to support the work of our medical schools and hospitals, which was kind of just mentioned in the introduction. And today we support education and research for the entire UC system and beyond, including many other universities like Cal State and other private universities and community colleges here in California and also in neighboring states. We do have 5 locations at the University of California. Besides San Diego, we have LA, Irvine, San Francisco, and also Davis. There's also a medical school in Riverside, but there's not currently a donor program there. Every year, more than 1,000 Californians make an extraordinary gift to the University of California by donating their body. Here at UCSD, we have about 500 every year. We're the largest of the UC programs. Exactly who's able to donate their body? Any California resident, anyone over the age of 18, that's also a California resident. We here at UCSD, we actually several times have accepted people who are not California residents. So it's not necessarily a requirement here at UCSD. Some of our schools vary just because mostly the need. We have a fairly large need here at UCSD because of the number of labs we host and the number of medical students we have. Also, our pharmacy students have anatomy labs, and we have the Center for the Future of Surgery at School of Medicine that some of you may be familiar with that we support, and also the Navy BioSkills Medical Center. So I think our need is a lot higher, so we have a little bit looser restrictions. And then also, obviously it's a legal document, so an individual must have the capacity to understand and sign the required forms. Some limitations, and as I just mentioned, we tend to be a little bit more lenient than some of the programs because we do have a fairly large need. But one thing that we for sure cannot accept critical diseases. Really, there's just a few: hepatitis B, hepatitis C, HIV, Creutzfeldt-Jakob's disease, which is CJD. Some of the programs do not accept tuberculosis. We do. And then during the COVID pandemic, in the beginning when we didn't know a lot about COVID, we weren't accepting COVID donors. I believe now it's as long as they haven't tested positive in the past 2 weeks. So there's still some, gray area with that. Extreme emaciation or obesity, we actually don't really have those limitations here at UCSD, but our sister schools do. And then some circumstances of death, those might include like accidents that require autopsy, just things that would possibly render the body unusable for donation. And a final decision can only be made at the time of death. And that's why we usually suggest to donors and their families to have an alternate or a backup plan, just in case. Rarely do we turn donors away, but, sometimes, unfortunately, we do have to. And why do people choose to donate? There's lots of different reasons people donate. There could be altruistic reasons or a desire to help. Maybe some sort of affinity to the university or its mission or healthcare providers, like they're a patient here at UCSD or one of our sister schools. They attended the University of California, some sort of connection to the college. Their kids do. Pragmatism, and then also tradition. A donor can revoke a donation in writing at any time prior to death. After death, the donation cannot be revoked by survivors, nor can they change any term of the donation. As I mentioned, the agreement is a legal document. So when the donor signs up, they agree to, all of the stipulations in the contract. And how is the donation used? Donations are, I mean, just a huge part of our mission here at the University of California, specifically the School of Medicine, with educational research and clinical pursuits. Those things include things like gross anatomy, neurological and anatomical and scientific research. Some anatomical materials could be used for like a surgical training lab, some sort of allied health profession, like paramedics, for example, come in and use our labs at times. Forensic research and training, possibly mortuary science education, the development and testing of new medical devices, such as, artificial limbs, those types of things that they may be testing. So anyways, those are some things that our donations are used for. The biggest thing here at UCSD, as I mentioned, we have the Center for the Future of Surgery. So we do a lot of surgical training labs, and then also our own medical students and pharmacy students in the gross anatomy labs, and the Navy bio skills training center out at the Navy hospital, where they train, I believe it's like the entire Pacific fleet of Navy and Marine surgeons and medics. And then what happens to the body? The body could be used for several years for research or education. We don't ever disclose any of that information to donor families, but it could be days, weeks, months, years. So it's kind of unknown. It just depends at the time of death what the greatest need is. And at the end of the period of use, all of our donors are eventually cremated and scattered at sea. Here at UCSD, we do cremate. At UCLA, they do biocremate, which is also known as alkaline hydrolysis. There's no cost to the family or estate of the donor, and the remains unfortunately cannot be returned for private disposition. So for some people, that tends to be a deal breaker, where their family wants remains, but we do often refer those families to other colleges in our area that can return remains, like USC, Loma Linda, and Western University in Pomona. And how does one go about donating? You can visit our website to find, or at bodydonation.ucsd.edu. And you can download and print the donor agreement from the website. It does have to be printed to have wet signatures and initials. We don't have the ability to do like DocuSign or anything at this point. We have the ability, we don't have the legal, I guess, pass on that yet. We still have to have the wet signatures. And the other option is you can contact us and we'll mail you out a packet, because it is 15 pages. And so sometimes people don't want to print that out. Prior to death, a person can self-register so they can sign everything for themselves and have it ready to go. After death, a legally authorized representative, like the next of kin or an agent, like a healthcare agent named in a healthcare directive, could authorize the donation. And at-need donations are kind of on a case-by-case basis, but we usually accept at-need. And what to do when a death occurs? We like to be notified within a 24-hour time period. And in fact, legally, something has to be done within 24 hours, whether it's refrigeration, cremation, burial, etc. So we like to be notified as soon as possible. And once notified, we'll confirm the eligibility. We have a database where we just need name and date of birth to confirm that and arrange for transportation. We can accommodate for, possible viewings at the residence. We can't do viewings at our facility, but we can try and accommodate if family members are trying to get to the residence, to say goodbye or whatever. Is there a memorial service? Actually, our memorial service is coming up in a couple weeks. It will be our first in-person service since 2019. So we're kind of excited about it. The students and the program staff organize it each year. So far, since the memorial service started, it's taken place on the Saturday of Memorial Day weekend. And I don't know if that will change, but so far that's usually when it is. The service is held on our campus. During the pandemic, we did have online versions available. I think they're still on our website. And those are just a couple pictures from the past services. It's a really nice service. And it is always open to the public if anyone's interested. And is there a memorial site available? We do actually have an almost brand new memorial site. It was dedicated last, I think it was June, May or June. It's hard, time kind of has blurred together the past 2 years, but it's fairly new. And it is just north, you can kind of see Scripps Pier in the picture there. So it's just north of the pier. And it's a beautiful spot for families to go to remember loved ones. There's a nice plaque. And so that site is just dedicated in honor of all of our donors. There's no specific names or anything. Our program's completely anonymous, but it is really cool. And since our donors are scattered at sea and looking out over the water, it's really nice. If you want to check it out, it also is open to the public every day. I think during daylight hours. There are some public parking spots as well. But the exact location is on our website. But it's really beautiful at sunset. And here's some information for all of our UC donor program locations. Here at UCSD, we actually cover all of California. Some of the other programs are more, kind of local regional to their area. Again, just because they may not need as many donors or have quite as big of a budget to go get the donors. But for all California residents, as the University of California, we try and accommodate all who would like to donate anywhere in California. Any questions?
I want to pop in. Can you hear me now, finally, Erin? Yes. I'm so very sorry. I had first ever 2.5 years running with Zoom. I had a major sound glitch. So I want to apologize to you. You were not properly introduced. I had your bio and I was supposed to do that. I really apologize. Anyway, thank you very much for the information about the program. I'm going to post in the chat. There is on the website the memorial service. It was done on video for the last couple of years, and I watched it start to finish, and it was so moving because there are students who speak about the importance of the program, and it's just really, really touching their relationship with the bodies, the meaning to them of this donation and how it has allowed them to learn and to gain new skills, and just their immense gratitude to those who choose to donate. So it's a really moving video, and I just wanted to point it out and recommend to everybody to watch that. Are there any questions from anyone else?
And to add to that also, we do, as I mentioned, we do have our in-person, first one since 2019 service coming up on, what's the Saturday, the 28th, I should know that, May 28th at 1 o'clock here on our campus. And as I mentioned, it is open to the public. There's a nice reception afterwards where you can ask questions of students or staff or faculty. And it's just a really nice service. And of course, you, as all of you know, the beautiful campus and everything. So you're, more than welcome to attend.
Hi. Jean Linder has her hand up. Jean?
Thank you. I have two questions. One, is it possible to coordinate body donation with organ donation, or whatever you have on the little sticker on your driver's license for needed body parts for transplant?
Yes, good question. So the organ and tissue donation, of course, is separate for transplant, but it is possible, at least here at UCSD, we can accept donors who have done organ and tissue donation. And also often, of course, every death in California is checked to see if they are eligible for organ and tissue donation. Especially organ donation is very, it has to be kind of like just the exact right conditions, as I'm sure many of you know. And so, but tissue donation is much more common. And we do work with the OPO here in San Diego, who is also under the UCSD umbrella, life sharing. And so, yes, we work with them all the time, and it is possible to do both.
Okay, second question, is it possible to specify what you want the body donation to be used for example, research versus medical student teaching?
No, unfortunately, it is not. We do ask for a medical history when people are registering, and we do our best to fit each request with the best donation. So basically what that means is if, for example, you want your donation to be used for, let's say, like Parkinson's research, but there is no Parkinson's research, we then we have to use the donation for what's needed. So whatever the need is at the time of death is what we use the donation for. But we do try and accommodate, whatever the donation will be best for, if we have some sort of request for that.
Thank you. Question from Fran Shepard. Fran?
Unmute myself. Yes, my middle sister is signed up. I haven't received a notification about the event on the 28th, so I will go, and I'll call and make sure that she's still registered.
Okay, so we actually only send out invitations to families who have lost a loved one in the past year. So we don't send them necessarily to registered donors, but the invitation is on our website and all are invited. But we do each year specifically send invitations to those who have just recently lost a loved one.
So, and then I'll get an invitation, and then I'll see is it the location at the BSB, or is it by the water?
It's in this, I think they call it the East Lawn, or the ceremonial lawn. It's just right there by the telemedicine building, kind of that huge lawn that you can't miss it. There's a big white tent.
Thank you. Okay.
Question from James McCarroll. Go ahead, James.
Yeah, so I think my question has sort of already been answered. It sounds as though when you do the donation, there's no guarantee that your donation will go where you would like it to go, but can you at least indicate your preference for where the donation will go, like teaching, for example?
Yeah.
Okay, question in the chat. Can I stipulate which department at UCSD gets my body? I know people at the Center for the Future of Surgery, RAD, etc., and wouldn't want my body to be on view there.
Yes, so we have had situations like that before. I will tell you, if it were me, having worked at UCSD for almost 10 years now, and yeah, I would feel the same way, like, oh, I know a lot of people on campus, medical students. So maybe it wouldn't hurt to put a note on there. that just indicates that. Also, we do our best, of course, to make the donors, so they, I guess I don't really know how to say it without being like too, of course, speaking to a group, I don't want to be too graphic, but anyways, we try our best so the donors can't be identified in any way.
Yes.
But I get it.
Is the head covered?
What's that?
The head covered?
Yeah.
Is the head or face covered?
So for our anatomy labs, they for sure are, but they do also have to study, they do the anatomy of the head, the brain, etc. But most of the time, yes.
Okay, but you can specify that if that's a concern.
I would put a note on there. For
Okay.
sure. Yeah.
Next question, how is the body preserved after it arrives at UCSD campus? Does the UCSD response team that picks up the body from the site of death confirm that the body is dead?
So the body actually, the death has to be reported before we're contacted. So they would already be pronounced dead, like at a hospital. If the person dies at home, the authorities would have to be contacted. So like a police officer would come out, or the coroner if needed, or an agent of the coroner. If it's a hospice death, which is pretty common with home deaths, the hospice person would come out before we came out. So they do the declaring the person dead.
Okay, thank you. Question from Stephen Adler. Go ahead, Stephen.
Hi, thank you, Suzanne. Thank you, Erin. Two quick questions. Does the form need to be notarized? And
Yes.
does if a current will doesn't stipulate body donation, do we need to change the will so that it reflects this?
Good question. So the form can be notarized. It doesn't have to be notarized. There's two options. If you're signing up for yourself, you can have a notary witness your signature, or two witnesses. If you're signing up if you're filling out the paperwork for someone else because either they can't fill it out for themselves or they're already deceased, you have to have two witnesses. A notary can be one witness, but anyways, so if you're signing up for yourself, a notary would suffice, or two witnesses. So it doesn't have to be notarized. And then the other question was, I already forgot.
Do you have to change your will?
Oh, the will. Yeah. No, you don't. Because like, for example, if it said in your will that you wanted to donate your body, but you hadn't registered with us, that wouldn't necessarily, make you a body donor. So, and the will oftentimes isn't available in the time frame needed for body donation. So it's good, while it's good to have it in your will or your healthcare directive or that sort of thing, the application for sure has to be filled out.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Erin, can you talk about permanent preservation of organs?
Like what context? Like for a specific.
What does that mean?
Permanent preservation of organs?
Yes, I'm seeing that on your website, a discussion of that.
Okay. Well, sometimes we do.
Not familiar with it?
Well, sometimes we do have things that go into what we call our permanent collection. So it's possible that not maybe a whole donor, but specific specimens could be permanently preserved. That could be through several things. We do plastination, we do latex injecting, and of course embalming. But oftentimes the most permanent specimens that we have are like skeletons and different bones. Like we have a lot of requests for temporal bones. and things like that. So we do have some organs and tissue specimens in our permanent collection that would be preserved for near permanent preservation.
Thank you. Specific question, how is the body preserved after the response team delivers the body to the campus? Is it kept in refrigeration or in a vat of formaldehyde or what?
Refrigeration to start with, and then once it's determined what the donation would be used for, then more specific preservation would be, I guess, used. Like, for example, embalming, which is a little bit different than the way that we do anatomical embalming. Actually, it's a lot different than the type of embalming that you would see like at a funeral home visitation. Or it possibly, we do have, we freeze specimens and donors as well, because we do have a lot of, like the surgical skills labs use fresh tissue as opposed to embalmed tissue. So the coolers are the main preservation. And then depending on, you know, what we use the donors for, that would be how they would be preserved following that.
Thank you. There's a question, can you describe the difference between the two cremation options, and are both options offered at UCSD?
So they really aren't options. There's two different types of cremation that are used at the University of California. UCLA is the only campus that uses what in the presentation I refer to as biocremation. It's also known as alkaline hydrolysis.
Which is what?
Yes, so this is quite a bit different from regular cremation. I don't know why they call it biocremation, because it's really not cremation, but basically chemicals are used. The body is placed into a chamber. Chemicals are used to kind of like dissolve the tissue and only bone is left. And then the chemicals are mixed back into like a neutral solution and disposed of. So you're, you know, yeah, I guess disposed of the chemicals. And so it's supposed to be more of a greener option. So then the remains, what's left turns out to be pretty much the same thing as with cremation, except it's amazing. They cremated remains, I don't know if you've ever seen them, but they're kind of like a ash color, like gray. I don't know, maybe some of you have seen them, but it's kind of like a dirty color almost. The alkaline hydrolysis remains, the bones are pure white when they come out of the chamber, and so the remains are pure white, so they're kind of prettier. But the UCLA donors are also scattered at sea. Here at UCSD, in our main lab, we have a crematory. And so the only option at UCSD currently is just cremation.
So if you're against cremation, this isn't for you.
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
Okay. A very specific question, what temperature are the coolers kept at?
So we have 3 different temperature levels. One is more of like a deep freeze, and I believe it's like -25 degrees. And one is just a regular freezer temperature. And then one is like a regular refrigerator. Well, actually, no, it's colder than a regular refrigerator, judging by the temperature thing on my own refrigerator. But it's like just above freezing, like 38.
Okay. And are the ashes scattered off the Scripps Pier, or does a boat from Scripps SIO scatter the ashes at sea?
They have to be legally scattered 3 nautical miles off the coast, but yes, in that area.
Okay. And are memorials able to be scheduled at that memorial site, specific ones for a specific family, or not?
I don't know why not. I mean, it wouldn't be able to be like scheduled through us or through the campus, but I mean, people are welcome to have a memorial ceremony there. But I mean, it wouldn't necessarily be private because it's a public, you know, location. So you could, so I
Okay.
guess to answer the question, you couldn't schedule it for a private event.
Got it. Got it. Perfect. All right, members, other questions? We've had a lot of really, really great questions.
Yes.
And I do want to recommend to everybody, if you have not viewed the video on the Center for the Future of Surgery, please do watch it, because really it is when we had that fabulous presentation that we decided we wanted to do this presentation, because they are really paired hand in hand. It's a great way to see the work of the Center of the Future of Surgery. I mean, they don't have any gruesome images or anything, but they talk in detail about, again, the importance of the body donation program. So I
Cool.
just really urge everyone to watch that. And that video is up on our YouTube channel.
And we are very fortunate to have the CFS here at UCSD. You know, like UCLA has nothing like that. You know, it's very unique, and it brings in, you know, world-renowned surgeons to study here, or practice, I guess I should say, here, and teach our own residents. And so it's, you know, it's really a cool thing that we have here on our campus.
Indeed, indeed. Another question, what entity actually scatters the ashes? Is it a boat from SIO, or is it a commercial company out of San Diego?
So the scattering, the gentleman that scatters the ashes actually has to be licensed with the state to do such a thing. So of course, you know, boats at Scripps are not. They have to be, he is licensed and regularly inspected and checked up on by the, I believe it's like the Funeral and Cemetery Board or something like that through the state. So we have a gentleman who's been doing it for years, twice a year.
And may I ask, Erin, when the ashes are scattered, are they commingled? So you're scattering 10 people mixed up in a jar all at once, or each one individually, or how does that transpire?
They are commingled. The nature of our body donation, specifically our program, and one of the reasons we can't return remains is because there's really no way to guarantee, number one, that it would be a whole donor, or that it would be only that donor. Some of our not our, but some of our colleague schools, maybe is a good word, but USC, Loma Linda, and Western that do return remains, they have a different type of program. Like they only use whole cadavers for their anatomy students. That is not the case for our program. We have hundreds of different specimens that we use, and so you know, it's just the nature of the program. We're just not able to do that. And so yes, all of the ashes are commingled, and we do that twice a year, sometimes 3 times a year.
Thank you. And there was a question about what was CFA, but we had said CFS, actually, Center for the Future of Surgery. And I've just posted the link to that presentation on our YouTube channel. So you all can download that if you want to look at it. Okay. Other questions from members? Erin has been most generous with her time. We really, really appreciate this. This is a really terrific service to inform our members. All of us with our long careers at UCSD care very much about UCSD and about helping it to survive and thrive. And this is a wonderful way to think about doing that. So thank you very much, Erin, for joining us and for sharing this information.
Absolutely. And if you have additional questions, well, you have our website, or we have an email address on there. You're welcome to email or call anytime with questions, or if you need anything.
All right. Thanks so much. Take care.
So, bye.
Bye-bye.
Yes, I